Hello and welcome back to the One United podcast. It's been a while, hasn't it, Henry? Been about a week.
Yeah,
I'm joined as ever by Henry. Henry, how you doing?
could be better. You?
Could definitely be better. And we're delighted to be joined by a very special guest. You don't see him very often, but he's very hard at work behind the scenes at the Elite Football Show. We're joined by Hassan. Hassan, how you doing?
I'm good, guys. I'm good. After yesterday's game, obviously, very happy, but I am looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about Ollie's performance and United's performance against Arsenal yesterday.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to what Henry says. So on that note,
Yeah,
I'll let you take the floor, Henry. Manchester United 0, Arsenal 1. I think Arsenal's first away victory against a top 4 team, at least in over 6 years, and it comes at Old Trafford. So what are your initial reactions to the game?
I don't know whether you're trying to make me angry, but it's kind of working. Basically, I'm furious. There's no other way of putting it. I'm absolutely furious. And it's not because of the fact that we lost 1-0. It's because there was no passion, no desire, no quality as well. And, we started with the same formation as we did against Leipzig. Fair enough, okay? But he started McTominay as a box-to-box midfielder. The guy was playing like centre-back half the time. So I don't know what the hell he's thinking there. And then, Fred, again, decent but pretty useless in the position he was in. He should have switched from McTominay. That's where it should have, started off. People will blame Pogba. The one thing that annoys me, people will blame Pogba for the penalty and poor performance. Where was the same bloody energy against Leipzig? He was fantastic against Leipzig. So now you're suddenly changing your mind as to how good of a player he is. This is utterly ridiculous. I'm fed up of people blaming him, just him. So in the first half, okay, we've got a completely imbalanced team, and then he's playing poorly. Gives the ball away a few times, and everyone's going, "Oh, just typical Pogba again." Yeah, well, fine, okay, fine. He had a bad performance in the first half, fair enough. Second half, we changed to a 4-2-3-1. We're playing Pogba left wing, and then he tracks back with the right back Bellerin and makes a challenge. Yeah, poor challenge. He's not supposed to be tracking back. That's not his job. He's not a left winger. He's not supposed to defend around the box. That's not his job. So people will blame him and they'll pick on him again. But as I said before, where was the same energy against Leipzig? There wasn't, because he had a fantastic game. And then people are all of a sudden, changing their mind, calling him crap. I'm fed up of this. I'm fed up with the fan base more than anything. It does my head in. How can people, say, tactical masterclass against Leipzig? The reality is there was loads of space. We counterattack. That's what we do. We counterattack. And then we don't have any space against Arsenal. And everyone goes, he's a crap manager. Keep the same energy throughout the whole thing. I've said before, okay, the Leipzig game, fair enough. He did well tactically, but they were open. So, counterattack football yet again. We're going to win, aren't we? But keep the same energy throughout all the games, because people chop and change their mind, and then they'll go, Ollie out, and then they'll have a fantastic performance, Ollie in. The reality is there was no desire in that first half. He said about the players after the game, he said that, we had a slow start. Yeah, we did have a slow start, but he started McTominay in a box-to-box midfield role. What do you expect? As I said, the guy was trying to play in like a back four. He was literally just sitting back in, and then Fred was sitting back as well. So we had like next to no attacking players, next to no players in midfield. So what do people expect from this manager? I don't understand what people want to get from him. He is not that good of a manager. So people need to stop. As Hayden just mentioned there, people need to stop targeting Pogba as well, because I'm fed up of it. It does my head in. He's a quality player. He would do well in any other team, but not in this team, because he's played out of position. So people need to start realising that this is not Pogba's fault. He gave away a penalty. Where was the same energy for all the other players that give away penalties? Lindelof, Maguire had poor performances, but that's down to mental health. And then Pogba has a poor performance. He's having too many haircuts. Give me a break, man. Give me a break.
What a way to start the show off, Emery. I think I can't argue with anything you've said at all. I think he did get it wrong. I think McTominay was more to blame than anyone else, because definitely for the first half, he was effectively playing as a second right back.
How many times have I said that? How many times have I said that? He's not a very good player. And people saying, yeah, but he's the future. He's the future. Well, he's like 23. No, he's not. He's not good enough. He wouldn't get into the Arsenal team.
No, definitely not. Someone who did get into the Arsenal team, though, was Mohamed El-Neni, who had an incredible game. Now, I'll come to you, Hassan. I know we spoke about it briefly before the start, but, how much did that performance by El-Neni sort of surprise you? And do you think the influence of Partey really has helped him improve his game?
Yeah, with Mohamed El-Neni, he was one of those players who was always on the fringes of the Arsenal team. It never, when the team sheet came out yesterday, I never expected El-Neni to perform in the way that he did yesterday. If you actually look at the formation that Arteta has set up, you've got two very strong and very defensively minded players in Partey and in El-Neni. And I think when it came to the game against United yesterday, the high press was the thing that we were trying to sort of target as much as possible. And you saw that yesterday. El-Neni was running around the pitch for 90 minutes. The guy was running his heels off. He was absolutely excellent. And I've never seen him actually put in a performance that he did like yesterday. I've never seen that before. I think when you have someone like Partey next to you, who is experienced in the defensive midfielder role, it makes his life a lot easier. It allows El-Neni to actually press a little bit higher while Partey is actually staying a little bit further back. It just allows a little bit of structure within the midfield. So you have that running midfielder, and then you have the one who is just in front of the defense. And I think that's something that Arsenal have lacked in such a long since I'd probably say Patrick Vieira. With the performance that Partey put in yesterday, it allowed it freed up El-Neni, and it freed up the likes of Saka, the likes of Bellerin to actually concentrate on an attack rather than just concentrating on defense. And you saw yesterday, obviously United went for the diamond with McTominay, Fred, obviously Bruno and Pogba. You guys were not able. Those four players were not able to get the ball, actually gain control of the ball in that midfield. We controlled it from the first minute, and it's amazing because you have such good quality players like Pogba, and like Henry said, he is always going to be the scapegoat in this situation. In reality, Arteta had his plans pitched perfectly. If you look at the structure of the game, if you look at the full 90 minutes, I guarantee you Arteta had that plan going through a couple hours before he expected that to happen. And I think that's a difference between someone like an Arteta and someone like an Ollie, where Arteta is very, depending on who he's playing and depending on who he's, if it's a top six side or if it's a bottom side like a Fulham or a Brighton, he's always willing to change it up. He's always willing to change a formation. And we've seen a 3-4-3 is always working for us. We saw it against Manchester City. We saw it against Liverpool. We saw it against Chelsea. I kind of came into this game not as confident after that 1-0 loss to Leicester, but it shows that changing the formation and changing the personnel in the team is always important when you're playing a team like Manchester United. And you saw that yesterday. I didn't expect the performance from United. I think it's very easy to blame certain people in that team. In reality, you have someone like a Paul Pogba. You should, in terms of a defensive capability, he hasn't got the defensive capability. He's pretty poor on that end. And he has said it before. If you're going to play a diamond like you did against Leipzig, I think Mata was playing in the position that McTominay was playing. Gave a little bit more structure to the side. And Ollie then decides to bring him on the 60th minute, which is a little bit too late. The whole 45 minutes, especially in the first half, you saw the pressure that we were putting on, especially Bruno, especially Pogba, to stop them getting the through ball to Rashford and Mason. And, it shows that the hard work that you can put in as a player, it doesn't matter how much quality you have. If you run your socks off for the full 90 minutes and show that you are putting in the effort, you will always get the result. And that's why I'm so proud to see someone like Mohamed El-Neni put in the performance like he did yesterday and actually cast the doubters wrong, because he has been criticised. I've criticised him many times. Didn't expect him to put in that performance. And it shows that obviously Arteta trusts him. He believes in him. He can do a job. And it's great to see that we have another, midfielder option within this Arsenal team. We had Xhaka and Ceballos off. Obviously, they had played many games this season. So it was nice to see an El-Neni performance, which really kind of stamped his sort of authority in the side with partnership with Partey. So, yeah, very happy with that.
Yeah, they definitely look strong together. Now we'll bring a few comments up. We've got a comment from John that says, counter-attacking Arsenal since Arsenal took over. I think that's definitely the case in big games anyway. You're happy going forward, playing on the back foot. Now we saw against Leicester, you sort of became unstuck by the fact that they set up against the deep block. Now going forward against teams like Leicester, and then going even further down the table, do you think Arsenal are good enough going forward to break through these deep blocks, or do you reckon they might come a bit unstuck if they're not able to hit teams on the counter attack?
I think it's a good point you make there. I think one thing that we have struggled with is creativity, and it's very similar to a sort of a Pogba situation where there is always someone that gets the blame. In this reality, it's everything has been circled around Mesut Ozil. I think he is the most creative person in our side. Not having him there he's a big presence. He is able to get those through balls to the likes of Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe, whoever's playing. If you actually look at that Leicester game, we lacked creativity, or we lacked that pretty much killer pass into the opposition's third, and it's very frustrating to see when you have such quality players like an Aubameyang who can score out of nowhere. The guy's he's a goal scoring machine, but when you don't have, for example, a Bruno Fernandes in your team who can change it up, who can get that killer pass to your strikers or to your wingers, it can be very frustrating. In reality, Arteta will need to structure his teams against these teams like Burnley, Brighton, who will sit back and who will try to defend low block. He will have to look at those matches and look at the personnel he has and see where his creativity comes from. The only person I would suggest who is creative in our midfield would be a Ceballos. But in reality, if we're looking at from a defensive perspective, you would want to have a Partey and a Xhaka there. I always said that I would like to see Arteta do the 4-3-3 formation going against these smaller teams, because it gives us a little bit of structure, and and you are able to then see a potential progression in what Arteta is trying to do, which is a 4-3-3 rather than a 3-4-3. He will have to look at the personnel, like I said, when it comes to these sort of games. When it comes to the top six, I think he has a structure in play, because it is a more attacking game. You're always going to be playing against a team who very rarely will be sitting back and will always be looking for a counter. But when you're looking at a Newcastle, when you're looking at a Burnley, they're going to be sitting back for majority of the time. And that's one thing I think Arsenal are going to struggle this season with, is creating that killer pass so we can actually finish off a game. And you saw that in the Leicester game. We had a couple chances which Lacazette didn't get through. So yeah, it really depends on how we come into those sort of games, whether we're able to break them down early, and like I said, how Arteta looks at our creativity side, because I think that is the biggest issue we've got right now.
I think that's spot on. I think United have similar problems, don't they, Emery? I think you'd like quite a lot to go into the issues that United have tactically, I'm assuming. So do you want to sort of explain with that?
I mean, the biggest problem yesterday for me was there was a lack of creativity, fair enough, but the lack of attacking fullbacks and the lack of crosses into the box. Even when Cavani came on, I think he had his first touch of the ball inside the box. I don't even know if he had one, to be fair. If he did, it was probably like 10 minutes into when he came on. So yeah, Ollie as a manager lacks the ability to change things. I think he has the players to do it, but when he's in a game, I know he changed to 4-2-3-1, a formation that doesn't work. So he changed from a formation that does work to a formation that doesn't work, and then he brought Van der Beek and Cavani on, but didn't bring McTominay off. So this guy keeps baffling me weekly on his kind of managerial decisions. I don't know how you can even, you can't really even analyze Man United at the moment. Genuinely, that it's a mess. Everything is a mess. The formation. I mean, we're playing, Rashford up front at one stage, Greenwood on the right, Fernandes, Cam, and Pogba left wing. Well, what the hell's that? That's so poor. People see our 4-2-3-1 good formation. If you have the right players, yeah, it is, but we don't have the right players for that. So, and then keeping McTominay on and bringing Matic on, I thought it was a complete stupid decision. I think Fred was the better player. I know he was probably on the edge of maybe getting a red card, but he looked pretty good. Or you take both off and bring Matic and Van der Beek on. So it completely baffled me, some of the tactical decisions he made. One thing that really winds me up about this manager is he says, "Oh, it's down to this. Oh, it's down to that." Why can't you just admit that you got it wrong? I want a manager that takes responsibility for when he got it wrong, because that's a sign of a manager who cares about the club and a sign of a manager who isn't scared to lose his job. He looks bloody terrified of losing his job, and every single decision he makes, not bringing McTominay off, he thought, if we can scrape a 1-1, I won't lose my job. So he's literally doing everything he can to keep himself in the job. The reality is he's losing time, and the board will be losing faith constantly. The results are poor. They're always poor, apart from the Champions League, which we seem to, turn up in because we can counter-attack against teams. So the results are awful at the moment. And as you said, Arsenal haven't won away against a big six side, I believe, since 2015. And it just happens to be the day that we need a win. We needed a win yesterday, and people don't see that as, that important. It's early in the season, blah, blah, blah. We're already 6 points off top 4. That's essentially, for me, that's like 4 games. So, because other teams will take a while to drop points. They might drop 1 point here and there, and we will drop more points. I can guarantee that we will drop more points. He is frightened of losing his job, and I can't. I'm fed up of seeing people say, "Oh yeah, but he's a young manager. He's been managing for 10 years. He's failed everywhere he's been, apart from Mulder, which, to be fair, with the amount of money they've got, is not difficult to win titles in that league." So I'm just a bit fed up, really. I'm a bit fed up of tactical decisions. They're just way off. And yesterday, we've gone from a 5-0 win against Champions League semi-finalists to, looking like we don't want to be playing on the pitch. The players don't look like they want to be there. They don't want to play for the manager. None of them do. Even Rashford was kind of like, a bit, he lost the ball a load of times. He had no support with him. He's probably thinking, what the fuck am I doing here? I can't defend this manager. I just can't. And people will defend him and say, yeah, but he got it slightly wrong. Yeah, but wait till the next game when he gets it wrong again. We'll beat Başakşehir and then we'll go and lose in the Premier League again. That's what will happen. So I don't know. There's nothing I can say about him. He's got it wrong yet again, and the sign of someone that's frightened to lose their job is not the manager that I want, taking United forward. I don't care if he's inexperienced. I don't care if people say give him time, because he's trying to rebuild a squad. Yeah, but he's going to rebuild it to finish 10th. So, just I'm a bit fed up, to be honest.
I can't.
Sorry, James. I think with
right.
actually on that point of you actually look at yesterday's game, I think it has a combination of Arsenal's performance to actually the formation that you guys were playing. One thing I realized yesterday is, I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka is one of the best defensive right backs probably in the world right now. His attacking ability is poor. You look at Luke Shaw. If I was obviously a United fan, I would take Tellers over Shaw. Obviously, he had the coronavirus, so he couldn't play yesterday. What you guys lacked was a bit of width, especially in that midfield. When you're playing a diamond, you effectively have no width. You do expect your fullbacks to be creating the width and whipping in crosses when you're attacking, and then bring the ball back when you're coming back in defense when you're defending. That's something that I think United have lacked for a while, and I've realised that an important, probably one of the most important positions you see right now are the fullbacks. You have Liverpool have a Robertson or a Trent Alexander-Arnold. You have Kyle Walker for City. You have in Arsenal's case, you can play Saka in that position. You can play Tierney. You've got Bellerin as well. Creating that width and creating a sort of threat out wide is probably the most important thing right now. And yesterday you saw none of that from United. Obviously, Ollie tried to change that, tried to alter it by bringing a 4-2-3-1. But why would you have Pogba playing on the left when you could potentially just replace him with Van der Beek? That is a straight swap, and Van der Beek, it would sort of balance out that midfield. I think what Ollie lacks is making decisions at the right time. And I think that is the difference between someone like an Arteta in this case and an Ollie. Is he's scared to make a decision which will have a negative impact on him rather than just gut instinct. And I think that's something which it may be down to experience. It may just be because he hasn't got that tactical prowess. But when you're a manager of Manchester United, you need to be making those decisions which can change a game. And with the players and the personnel you have on the pitch, you've got some world-class players. You know, Bruno Fernandes, the guy is absolutely brilliant. Pogba, brilliant. McTominay, I don't particularly rate him, but you've got Fred there. And I've always said that Fred is a very, very good player. If you're going to play Fred in a diamond, you would want to have Matic there so you can allow Fred to press on the midfield and actually be able to collect the ball and distribute it to the attacking midfielders. That's something that I think Ollie lacks is that sort of killer instinct at the right time, when to change it. And even if it means changing it in the first half and adjusting to it, you do it, because at the end of the day, the Premier League is played week in, week out. You need to make those important, difficult decisions within a match to be able to win a game. The Champions League is something which comes once every 2 weeks or once every week. You're always going to have a definitive game where you have an RB Leipzig who aren't used to United's diamond formation, are going to play them twice this season. You're obviously going to go and absolutely destroy a team who you don't play on a regular basis. If United want to have a positive season or a successful season, I personally think that Ollie needs to go. That is the only way you guys are going to have a successful season. If Ollie stays, he needs to stick to a certain plan and have trust in certain players. And those players that he is not comfortable with or can't play the position that he wants them to play in, then they need to be potentially sold in January. It's the only way that is going to work for United now.
Absolutely. I'll bring this comment up from Hader as well, because it's a good point. He says it feels like it's illegal to sort of criticise him, and my problem with Ole, I still, I think he deserves a lot of credit, because on more occasions than not, he does get the tactics spot on. We've seen it in multiple big games. He's hit the nail on the head completely, but there's also times like today, and it's happened numerous times over the 18 months that he's been here, or however long it is, that he's got it catastrophically wrong as well, and you can't defend that, because it's simple things. Playing that diamond where it looked to start with that he was putting McTominay out on the right and Fred holding, which straight away is wrong. It's just way too defensive. I think you could have had Pogba out on that left, Fernandes out on that right, and Van der Beek through the middle going forward. So it just takes the game to Arsenal then, doesn't it? Van der Beek's pretty press resistant as well. He can pass between the lines. He'd have fit in well. But I'll bring this comment up from Hader as well. He says, has he hit his ceiling? I'm assuming on about Ole, and I think he has. I think tactically, he does get it right occasionally, but you look at managers in history, you look at Jurgen Klopp currently, he never gets it wrong. And if Ole's getting every other game wrong, he's never going to be at that level, is he? At all.
Yeah, but James, I've really got to disagree with you on what you said about him getting it tactically right more often than not. The reality is, we cannot beat sides that play low block. We can't break them down. Yesterday we couldn't break Arsenal down. It's simple as that. So every game that we win happens to be counter-attack, or we get an early penalty and we score, and then the other team go chasing the game and we win on the counter-attack. That's how we play. So people need to understand that this manager only does well when we get space. So other managers will do well, breaking sides down. But I just can't, So he goes back to the 4-2-3-1 yesterday. Okay, a formation that doesn't work, that hasn't worked for us. Maybe it has on occasion when we've got the odd penalty and won the game from there. The reality is, so you're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That is the definition of insanity. So I don't understand why he keeps doing it. It's, he's like, tried and trusted formation. We play it all the time. No, we don't. We don't play it, and it doesn't work when we play it. or we struggle to get the win when we play. You know, we rely on De Gea to make 3 or 4 fantastic saves. So people need to stop backing him and saying, you know, he's got it tactically right, because the reality is anyone could say to the players, sit back, hit him on the break. That's all it is. Every time we play well, sit back and hit him on the break. And we couldn't do that yesterday because Arsenal, you know, El Neni and Partey closed all the space. So
I do think also one thing that you guys really did miss on, specifically player, was Martial. He is, I think, one of your most important players. You know, I rate Martial very highly. I think he's a brilliant player. If you look at his hold-up play, especially in that Leipzig game, he was brilliant. You know, allowing a little bit of space and a little bit of time for Mason Greenwood and for Rashford to get into the right positions. Because if you saw yesterday, in reality, Bruno Fernandes was effectively playing in the false 9 position. But when it came to attacking, he effectively was taken out of the game because there was such mismanagement in that defensive midfield area. You had Partey and you had El Neni consistently shutting down Pogba, consistently shutting down Fred. Didn't give Bruno any chance to be able to distribute the ball between the lines to a Greenwood run or a Rashford run. When you have Bruno playing in that attacking midfield position, and then you've got someone like Martial who is able to link up between the two, it gives you another attacking option. And that's one thing that I think you guys hugely miss. And you saw it in the RB Leipzig game. He was unbelievable in that game. He gave another attacking element to the side. And I think that's something that potentially you've lacked since that Tottenham game. He's been banned for, I think, about 3 or 4 games now. And it's great to see how integral he is to your side.
We're too reliant. We're too reliant on Fernandes and Martial. Why are we too reliant on them? Why can't I know Rashford scored a hat-trick, fair enough, you know, but he had space. So why are we too reliant on 2 players to do all the work for us? Other top sides have 4 or 5 quality players that can break teams down. You know, I know City are missing. They missed De Bruyne for a bit, but they still won games, and they still found a way to break teams down as well. And they always play against low block teams, so they always find a way to break teams down. We are too reliant on 2 specific players to win us games. I'm beyond finished with this manager now, and you know, for the people that have backed him, well, you know, you can't just change your mind. And you know, for the fan base that's gone, oh, you know, Ollie's at the wheel, Ollie's fantastic. This is coming back on you now. Everyone that has said he's a fantastic manager, this is coming back on you now. You know, fair enough, he's got it tactically right a couple of games this season, but other than that, we've been poor. We've been shocking. Even against Newcastle, I didn't think, wow, we're playing fantastic here. We're knocking the ball around like you wouldn't believe. Towards the end, we were, because there was loads of space, but not before that. So people need to realise that this manager is just not good enough, and you know, he won't get us top 4 this year. I've just seen one of the comments. He won't get us top 4 this year, I don't think. I don't think he's, you know, got enough knowledge. I think teams like Liverpool and City will learn from the games that we played against them previously, and they'll play a completely different way against us. So managers and teams will learn, and as soon as we get picked apart by one manager, we're done, because we can't play any other way. So yeah, I mean, I can't defend this guy anymore. I've tried to, as you guys might have seen before on the podcast, I've tried to defend him. I just can't. I simply can't. I can't see a way forward for him. And, you know, we've got Poch on Monday Night Football tonight, which I'm going to be excited to watch. And one of the questions I'm sure from Carragher or one of them will be, you know, where's next for you? What do you want to do? And if he says, I'm excited to get back into management, get rid of this Norwegian and get Poch in, seriously, because our season will just go downhill, and we can't wait until December when we've lost another 3 games. We can't wait that long, you know, because we'll be so far behind. And then top 4 will be out of the question completely. So, yeah, we can't keep waiting, can't keep delaying it, because poor performances like this keep happening. And with all due respect to Arsenal, that was probably one of the most average Arsenal sides we've come up against in the last 15 years. No, I don't think it was fantastic. I really don't. And Aubameyang was non-existent for most of the game, apart from when he scored. Lacazette, again, non-existent. The wing-backs weren't doing a hell of a lot of damage. So I didn't see an Arsenal side where I thought, wow, okay, fair enough. If you get beaten by these, fair enough. I didn't see that. I saw an Arsenal side that was there for the taking after the Leicester game. You miss opportunities. That's what happens in games. You saw the Saka header, should have scored. Miss opportunities. You give chances away, but we just lacked everything. The fundamental basics that we associate with United, we lacked everything, and it was so disheartening. It was just dull and crap, and same as the Chelsea game. Just we look like we were happy to take a point, and I don't want to take a point against a side that we can beat.
Absolutely. I think the problem Ole is going to have now going forward, he's going to have to explain to the board, where he takes this team forward, because last year he was struggling against smaller teams, but he sort of made up for it with his exemplary record against big teams. But you look this season already, we've played 3 of the big 6, and we've drawn 1 and lost 2. Bearing in mind all 3 games were at home. Now it does seem like these English teams, the big English teams that we played last season and did so well against, have figured us out. Now you look at PSG and Leipzig that we beat. Now we've not played them recently anyway under these new counter-attacking tactics. So I think we've beat them because they just didn't know how to deal with the tactics we deployed last year, because obviously they've not come up against them yet. Now that's a big problem for Ole, because if he doesn't sort something that quick, he's not able to beat the small teams and he's not able to beat the big teams. So where does he go from there? Now, it is going to be very interesting listening to Poch, because, there was big rumours about him going to Zenit, but they seem to have cooled now, which, seems a bit suspicious given the timing. Why would an almost certain move to Zenit suddenly just deteriorate now that Ole's job's under pressure?
He'll wait.
I've always said that Pochettino is made for United. One thing I think United and Woodward has also said that he's a big Pochettino fan. I think if United were smart, they would go for him probably now, if they were smart. Because in reality, with a manager like that, I put him at the caliber of a Guardiola or a Klopp. Okay, he hasn't won the trophies to show it, but you saw with Tottenham where a team which were disjointed and were pretty average and scraping top 4 a lot of the time, were very close to title contenders. The guy got them to the Champions League final. It shows that he has a plan. It shows he knows what he's doing. And I think when you have someone sitting there, if it was a situation, let's say, I don't know, if there was a situation where at Man City they had let's say a situation with Oli in as their manager, they would make that switch like that. It's the same with Liverpool. If they knew that the manager was wrong, they would make that switch. And this is, I think, the difference between someone like an Arsenal or a United, where there is consistent dilly-dallying about decisions and waiting for something to happen, and that something is nothing. You're just putting yourself in a worse and worse position as the season goes along. Why not make the decision now and bring Pochettino in? Because it's very clear you've got the players that he would want, like he wanted a Bruno Fernandes when he was at Tottenham. You've got players there that would excel under the guy. He is well renowned as one of the best managers in the world right now who is not in a job. Why not go for him? Even if you're not going to go for him, go for an Allegri potentially. You've got options there, but I think United have put themselves in the dilemma after that transfer window, especially not getting Sancho, not getting the players they wanted to get. They put themselves in a position where they're like, well, we either stick with Oli, effectively throw him under the bus in the next 6 games and get him out, and then bring Pochettino in, or we wait till December, see how it's going. If we're, let's say, 6th or 5th, we stick at it, and then we potentially get top 4. For United and for the board and for everyone who is running this club, top 4 is enough for you guys. That is the way it has been for since the Glazers took over. It's the same with Kroenke and Arsenal. Top 4, once you get your money, they're more than happy with that. There isn't that ambition like you see at City, like you see at Liverpool, where owners want to win, or an Abramovich, where owners want to put in the money for their teams to be, best club in Europe, best club in England. There isn't that at United, and there hasn't been. They've lost their identity. And I think the identity of United has been dissipating for the past 7 or 8 years since Sir Alex left. And in reality, if United were smart, if Ed Woodward had any sort of idea what he was doing, he would make this decision now.
I just think Pochettino and United go hand in hand as well, because he's such a young manager, but in context anyway. Now, I know he's a similar age to Ole, but he's got the credentials to back him up that Ole really doesn't. So this is a real low-risk move for him as well. He either, he succeeds, he makes United great again, and he really establishes himself as one of the great coaches in the world, or, he fails. People will expect him to fail at the minute. No United manager has succeeded. So he's still got those credentials and his young age to back him up and still have a career after United. So I think from that point of view, it's a move that really makes sense for Pochettino, let alone United, which is sort of exciting me in a way. Now, I don't know how you feel about that, Henry.
Well, one of the things that has frustrated me over the last kind of year or so, I'd say. So there's been poor performances, and then we pull a fantastic performance out of the bag, and he keeps his job for another 6 or 7 games, and blah blah blah, all that rubbish. The reality is, the only reason why he's still in the job is because of the loyalty, because he used to be a player, because we don't want to hurt his feelings or damage his reputation. We have to be loyal to him. So, but now screw that. I don't care if he's an ex-player, and it's people will say, but he's a legend. Yeah, that was when he was a player, not when he was a manager. He is a manager now, and he is not very good at it. It's simple as that. So people need to realise that we can't keep having loyalty to him because he won us the Champions League, or because he was a super sub for 6 or 7 years and fantastic in the side. We can't keep having loyalty to this guy. We just simply can't. I know he played for us for a long time, but that shouldn't even come into the equation now. And I think the owners almost have self-protection when they hire these people, because it's a no-win situation for the fans. You almost feel bad having a go because he's been such a notorious player and so fantastic. But at the same time, it's not right, and tactically he's got it wrong so often. So screw loyalty now. That's all I'll say. Screw loyalty to him. It needs to be the right decision for the club, not for the owners, because I know they're. To be fair, I think this might even be the right decision for the owners, because they're going to lose a load of money. They're going to lose a load of money not getting Champions League again. So why wait until December or so when you're not going to get Champions League, and why not just get rid of him now and then have a chance of getting Champions League? This squad should be in the top 3. It is good enough to be in the top 3. We saw it last year. It is good enough. I know Cavani is old and stuff, but he's still a good striker. Telles was a fantastic signing, I think. Van der Beek, a great signing again. This is good enough to be in the top 3 this side. I don't question that with the right manager. So they need to make the decision sooner rather than later, because at the end of the day, we're paying the price now because we're watching shit football, and the owners are going to pay the price because they're not going to get their Champions League money. Their amazing Champions League money they're so heavily reliant on, so they can rip more money out of the club. So they need to make a decision, but they're very kind of weird with making decisions. They always seem to make it when we're doing in the worst possible place. They did the same with Mourinho, maybe not with Van Gaal, but with Moyes as well. They make the decisions too late. Always make them too late, and I am fed up of it. It's just poor management, mismanagement of the club as well. So, yeah, there needs to be some serious changes, because this just isn't working for me. It's like if a marriage doesn't work, you don't stick it out for another 10 years and hope that something will change at some point. Nah, fuck that. Off you go. Simple as that, really.
Fair enough. I think the problem with the whole loyalty thing to him as well, yes, he was a great player for United and he will go down as a legend, but the longer this goes on, the more his reputation is going to be tarnished. And I think even from a club point of view, the longer they let him sit there and suffer, the more it's going to hurt him as a person, because his reputation as a United legend is the way it's going. It's just going to go down the drain. People are going to forget what a player he was for us and just think, oh well, he was the guy that just kept us in and around fourth position for a while. He was never really spectacular. I think that if you were really loyal to him, you'd want what was best for him as well. And I think the best thing for him and his reputation is it can't be letting him carry on as he is. Surely.
If he was loyal.
The thing is, actually, I just want to say the thing is with that, and one thing I realised yesterday, it was the post-match review which Roy Keane was on. He was slating the players. The one thing I've realised with a lot of United pundits is they always go for the players, not the manager. And when you talk about loyalty, that is where loyalty is they will not beat down their ex player or someone who they used to play with. They won't batter down the manager because they will always consistently batter the players. That's why Pogba is always in the limelight, because a situation like yesterday where, okay, he gave a penalty away. It wasn't the best tackle. It was a guaranteed penalty. But putting the blame onto Pogba just because of his price tag is unacceptable. Put some blame on the manager for once. And I think if you're a pundit and you're on TV and you're talking about match analysis of the game, actually stick to your guns and actually speak the truth. Don't just go for the players because it's an easy way to go, just because you don't want to hurt your friends' feelings. Go for the manager, because at the end of the day, the manager picks the teams, the manager picks the actual structure, he picks the formation, and he picks the tactics. If he's not getting it right, and he hasn't been getting it right since the Premier League has started, then there's obviously one thing which is wrong with this whole situation, is that Ollie is not right for this club. You know, I'm sick and tired of seeing the likes of, I remember when you guys beat PSG in the, I think it was the quarterfinals around the 16, and it always goes back to what Rio Ferdinand was saying, where he was like, United are back, give him a new contract, all this sort of stuff. It's bigging them up when bigging up Ollie and bigging up United when they've hit a massive high of a win against PSG or a win against Leipzig. But when they're down in the dumps, there's criticism, but it doesn't go to the manager, it goes to the players. The players can only do so much on the pitch and reflect actually what the manager is showing off the pitch onto the pitch. If it's negative, like it was yesterday, what do United fans expect? Every single game is going to be a negative performance. When you have teams who press up against you, like we did yesterday, you guys ran out of options. And I think that's where the tactical sort of tweaking comes in, which Ollie really lacks. And like I said, if you're an ex-player or an ex-legend of this, the biggest football club in the world, actually have the balls to go in and criticize the manager. Actually have balls to do that, because it can't just be the players who are putting in the bad performances. It's obviously the manager who's putting the tactics in the formations in, which is not allowing them to play the way that they should be playing.
Yeah, it's so frustrating to see, and it all goes back to when we hired him, he wasn't having a fantastic run of games, in the first place, and then I know people go back to the PSG game and how fantastic that win was. It was fantastic, but people have got to realise that the penalty shouldn't have been a penalty. It probably wasn't a penalty, and one of the other goals came from a huge mistake from the keeper. So we didn't play fantastic in that game. We weren't amazing. So people just completely, misunderstand the reality of the situation at the moment. And, I can't stand these people that are too loyal to Solskjaer. If he, and this is going to be a controversial comment, if he was loyal to the club, he would realise that he isn't the right man for this. If he understands, I know he wants to keep the job, and I know he wants to, build his reputation. If he was loyal to the club, as he says he is so often, then he wouldn't be in this job right now, because he should know himself. I think he probably does know himself that he is getting this job not based on managerial quality, based on like 4 or 5 games after he got the caretaker management job, where he just said, oh, guys, you've been under a strict regime for the last couple of years. Oh, go out and have fun for these 2 or 3 games. We did. We won the games, fair enough. But then after that, the honeymoon period was over. And since then, it's been kind of, as James said yesterday, it's been like 1 step forward, almost 3 or 4 steps back, not 2. So we always
it's 100 games Ollie has been in charge of now for United. Yeah. If you actually watched the game yesterday, Arteta's had 39 to 40 games as an Arsenal manager. I think in reality you saw structure and just an unorganized team who didn't know what they were doing at the time where they needed that killer pass or that sort of play which would get them back into the game. And I think that's something which, like we've seen for the past 2 years actually, that Ollie doesn't have that tactical prowess to make the changes which will affect a game. And in the Premier League right now and in the footballing world right now, football is moving so quickly and teams are funneling money into their clubs like nothing. You know, Chelsea spent 250 million this season. If Chelsea had a Pochettino or an Allegri, they'll be challenging for the title, 100%. They're, you know, United and Arsenal are very lucky that Frank Lampard's in charge because he is at the same level to an extent as Ollie is. He hasn't got that managerial experience. He hasn't been under, you know, he hasn't learned from a Bielsa or he hasn't learned from a Guardiola to actually get his tactical finesse in. The guy has come from Derby and come into a big job. So if United were smart and if United wanted to make changes and actually see their performances improve, bring someone who has an identity, who has a clear structure within their managerial experience, which Pochettino has. Now, I've said before, I wasn't particularly keen on Arteta coming in at the start. I didn't know what to expect. You don't know what to expect with a manager who's come in. Obviously he's had experience at City, but you don't know what influence he had there. It's very clear he had a huge influence with the way that he's put this Arsenal team, which was in disarray when Emery was there, to now conceding the least amount of goals in the Premier League this season out of all the teams, 7 in 7 games. You have such a disjointed team at the moment defensively, in the midfield, especially in the box to box midfield position, or even in the CDM position. I still don't understand why you didn't go for a CDM this season. Why didn't you go for a Thomas Partey? Because that would have released so much pressure off Pogba, would have released so much pressure off Bruno to actually allow them to play the game that they should be playing. And it's obviously clear that in terms of backing, this has been going on for the past 7 years, where you have the board spending 300 million on certain players who aren't bad to an extent, but don't fit the system. You let go of a manager. Mourinho comes in, you spend 200-300 million again, you let go of the manager. This is going to keep on going until you have someone who actually knows what they're doing. And to be honest, this doesn't change like an Arsenal situation until the Glazers decide to move on. Because for them, it's all about money. That's all they care about. And if United want to actually be a big club again and want to get to the top, they need to be very smart about who they bring in next. And the only way that I see it is by bringing Pochettino, because if he does not come now, and if they don't go for him soon, he's going to City. I get City are going to go for him.
Yeah,
I hope so. I hope not. Anyway, I definitely hope not. But I did want to sort of bring it back to the game, because one other thing I did want to talk about was Thomas Partey that you just mentioned. Now, he absolutely bossed things, didn't he? Now, obviously, I didn't watch too much of him at Atletico, but what surprised me was, obviously, he's got that ability to win the ball. We all know that, but his actual ball progression and his composure on the ball, I think he nutmegged McTominay a couple of times throughout the game as well. His composure on the ball and his ball progression is incredible. Now, how big of a signing is he for Arsenal, do you think, Hassan?
Do you know what? With this whole, obviously we were going for hour for majority of the transfer window, and we obviously do have creative frailties there. But I think one position that we've always had an issue with was that CDM position. Actually, having a solid spine in that team with the defense and with the actual midfield. Now, when Partey came in, I remember watching him in the Liverpool match, Champions League game last season at Liverpool, where they won 3-2. And I remember specifically one moment where he had got the ball within Liverpool's half, and he was able to dribble through 3 or 4 of their players. And I think it led up to the goal that Morata scored, I think. The guy has come in and he's fitted in perfectly into this team. It does take a lot of time for players to adjust, but you can see he has he's such an all-round midfielder. He is able to, his passing is incredible. his defensive work is unbelievable. He is mainly a CDM. I would play him in that CDM position in front of the defense. But I didn't anticipate how much an effect he would have on this team. You saw yesterday, linking him and El Neni together, you wouldn't think that they would be the best partnership against the Manchester United team who have Bruno, who have a Mason Greenwood, who have a Rashford, who can cut through teams like anything. But it was so nice to see some structure within the midfield. And I always say that if the midfield is dominated by whatever team, that team is most likely going to win the match. And you saw yesterday that it was the nutmeg on Fred, which he did. He just knows. He's sort of one of those players who he's just tactically brilliant. And it's so nice to see a defensive midfielder who is able to control a midfield. And we haven't had that since Patrick Vieira. You know, I've always said before, the CDM position, you look at someone like Fabinho at Liverpool, he didn't play for, I think, a quarter of the season when he first came in. But you can see the impact it has on a spine and on a team when you have someone there who is able to control the midfield, who is able to stand as a block for the defense, who allows them to then do their job whilst also being able to feed off to the attacking players. And you saw yesterday what a player he is. I'm very happy with the performance he's been putting in. It'll be interesting to see what Arteta does if we do adjust to a 4-3-3 where we play him, because I would still like to see him play potentially in a deeper role rather than playing in more of an upfield midfielder. He can play in either position, but I think for us, that was probably the best signing we've made in a very long time. You know, obviously you have a sign like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang who gets us the goals and you know, creates chances for us. But when you have someone who is able to, who is pretty much effectively, he's so effective everywhere on the pitch, it allows other players to concentrate on what they're doing. And you saw yesterday when you have someone like Gabriel, who is a world-class defender, he was brilliant yesterday. When you have someone like him and Rob Holding, who I have been I've questioned him a couple times in past seasons. When you have those two in the defensive positions and you've got Partey sitting in front of them, it just allows a bit more, allows players to be more comfortable. And I think with Partey in the side and the presence he has, and you know, he's played in the Champions League, he's played for Atletico, and Simeone's structure was very much deep lining. You know, their defense was impeccable, and I think Partey was signified that when he was part of the Atletico team. For him to bring that now to Arsenal is brilliant, and you know, I'm very happy with that signing. I didn't expect him to come. And I think that if we had decided not to go for him, go for an hour, I think we would be having more defensive issues than we would be if we didn't get him. So, you know, I can't complain. The guy is brilliant. And I do think he would get into any of the top 6 teams in the Premier League. And I think he could get into a majority of the teams best teams in Europe. So I can't fault him. He's brought so much structure into the team. I'm so happy he's here.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Now, one thing I noticed about him yesterday as well that really stood out was you can tell that Diego Simeone influence that he's got on him is his defensive prowess is just incredible. There wasn't a single time where I noticed him out of position. Now, he was bombing forward with the ball, progressing the ball, and yet he was still never caught out in that holding midfielder role. We never really were able to unleash Bruno Fernandes in that hole. You know, Rashford and Greenwood, credit to the defence, they never really got a sniff of the ball at all. Now, Henry, how much could a Partey-esque sort of signing for United, just really shoring up that midfield, how much of an impact could that have on this squad?
It doesn't matter if you buy Ronaldo. You've got to have the right manager. Genuinely, we saw with I'll use Ronaldo as an example. Why not? We saw with Sarri last year. That side that with Ronaldo in was fantastic, and yet was made to look pretty ordinary by a lot of teams. So you've got to have the right manager to utilize the better players. And if we're going to buy a CDM, you've got to have a manager with a style that wants to buy a certain player for his team. And I don't see that at the moment. So I don't see it as a realistic, signing, going and get a CDM in January or whatever, unless we have a different manager. Genuinely, I think it's as simple as that.
Well, I feel like I'm asking you sort of every week now, but I'll ask you a different question then. Given the resurgence of the hype around Poch, who do you want the definitive answer? Who do you want to come in as the replacement to Ole?
Poch. I think it is as simple as that at the moment. You know, I've mentioned Allegri before, which is, you know, fair enough, but I think maybe in hindsight, maybe too defensive. But I think Poch he knows the Premier League. He's done well with Spurs in the Champions League and in the Premier League as well. He made a side out of almost no money and made them pretty damn good. I mean, I know Haas might not agree with me, but put Arsenal to shame sometimes.
100%.
So he's a fantastic manager and embarrassed a lot of teams. So, you know, I see him as the only kind of reasonable successor to a manager, and hopefully it's not a pile of crap if he comes in.
I can't disagree with you at all. Now, just to round off the show, Hassan, a brilliant result at Old Trafford. Will this sort of set you up for one of the best seasons you've had in recent years? And if so, where do you think you'll end up?
Yeah, I think that match yesterday has kickstarted our season back up again. I think you look at I think we lost 3 of our last 4 Premier League games, obviously to Liverpool, Man City, and Leicester. I think it shows yesterday that Arteta knows what he's doing, what he expects from the players. I think he has, the beauty of it is that he has certain formations he can play, which allows him to adapt to scenarios and situations. I think one thing that will be a hindrance for us will be the creativity side, but that's something which I have full trust in him to figure out and look at the teams that we're playing and how we can kind of get around that issue. You know, it'll be a very interesting season. As I've said before, with the way that the games are coming in this season, you know, we've got 2 or 3 games pretty much every single week, or at least twice a week we've got a game. It will be really dependent on how other teams perform as well, because you've got Everton who's still up there. You've got, you know, Villa have come out of absolutely nowhere and are putting in the performances. So I would like to see us to get into the top 4. My only concern is our sort of prolonged, what's the word? I'd probably say our consistency. That is a bit of an issue, like United's is. We can go on a run of games and we can, you know, put in those performances. But in reality, if you saw yesterday's game, okay, we had plenty of chances, but are we able to finish them off? And that's something we have lacked this season. So I think we can make top 4. I think it will be a tough ask, and I think we have got the potential to do it. It's just whether the likes of United falter and they don't make a decision on Ole until Christmas. That strengthens our position. And if Chelsea are in a position where Frank isn't good enough, which personally I don't think he is, but that's another conversation, then I think we've got a real chance. There are 2 teams I think who can potentially make the top 4 are Tottenham and Arsenal. I think they're both in very solid positions. It's just consistency. Like I said, if you've got games coming up week in, week out, you need to put in those performances, whether it's grinding out a 1-0 win or beating a team 4-0, you need to have consistency. So I'm hoping that Arteta can bring the best out of these players, and then potentially January look in a creative midfield and see if we push on for top 4. Not expecting any chance that we're going to win the league this season. People must be barking mad.
Fair enough. I think top 4's, based on yesterday anyways, is very realistic. Now, unless anyone has anything to add, I think we'll end it there.
Just wanted to add something quick, and this is a message to all Man United fans. Get real. I'm tired of seeing people too optimistic about this side. Be realistic, and also keep the same energy for all the games, because I'm tired of people commenting and saying how fantastic of a manager he is one week and then how crap of a manager he is the next. Don't chop and change your mind. Keep consistent and people will respect you a little bit more, because, you know, this fan base is turning into Arsenal's, and that's a bit embarrassing. I don't want to go down.
That is banter FC there. That's
yeah.
You don't want to be. You don't
exactly. So be realistic and stop being so bloody optimistic. This manager is not good, and see sense. That's all I can really say.
Well, on that note, I think we'll call it a day there. Thank you as ever to Henry for joining me and being an absolute little ray of sunshine as you always are. You know, providing us with the positivity, and a massive thank you to Hassan for joining us. Obviously, doing absolute bits on the Elite Football Show. Sorry, behind the scenes, keeping that ticking. So if you haven't already, go and check that out. So yeah, thank you, Hassan.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. And also, I just want to say, guys, you're doing an absolutely brilliant job. Keep on doing what you're doing. Henry, don't get too upset with United. We've had this for the past 17 years, so it will come about. But honestly, guys, you're doing a really great job. Keep it up. Keep in the hard work, and I enjoyed it today.
Cheers, mate. You too. So thank you everyone for watching, and if you haven't already, then don't forget to like and subscribe. You know, drop your comments of your opinions of stuff we've talked about, and we'll hopefully see you for some coverage of the upcoming Başakşehir game. So yeah, we'll see you midweek. Thanks for watching. See you next time.